Gaspar Milazzo, April 25, 1887, May 31, 1930, was a major organized crime figure in Detroit, Michigan, during the Prohibition era. He had earlier been a member of the Brooklyn-based gang that would later become known as the Bonanno crime family. Early life: born to Vincenzo Milazzo and Camilla Pizzo in Castellammare del Golfo, Sicily, Milazzo immigrated to the U.S. in 1911 and settled in Brooklyn, New York. Upon his arrival, Milazzo quickly established himself within Brooklyn's Sicilian community and the Italian underworld. His criminal record would contain the alias Gaspar Siblia and Gaspar Lombardo, Siblia being his wife's maiden name. Once powerful and now deceased New York Mafia boss, Joe Bonanno wrote his 1983 autobiography, A Man of Honor, that Gaspar Milazzo and his cousin Stefano Magaddino were important men in the Brooklyn-based Castellammare clan. Arrival in Detroit: Gaspar Milazzo began working with Salvatore Catalanot and created a close working relationship and alliance with the powerful Mafia leader in the early to mid-1920s. There are conflicting reports as to exactly when Milazzo arrived in Detroit, possibly making stops in other cities with Castellammare's clan influence, such as Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and even California, where he could look over his criminal and business opportunities in these areas of the country. But by no later than 1923 Milazzo was established in Detroit. After the death of Catalanot in February 1930, Milazzo continued to be a high-ranking member of the Detroit crime family, although the actual extent of his power is under debate. Some organized crime writers and authors claim that Milazzo was the successor to Sam Catalanot, but if that was even true, he had a very, very short reign. It is known that Milazzo was a close associate of the East Side Gang led by Angelo Melli, William, Black Bill, Taco, and Joseph, Joe Uno Zerilli, who took over and led the East Side Mob, the remnants of the former Genoa Gang, Vitali Bosco Gang, and eventually became the first three leaders of the modern Detroit Partnership, otherwise known as the Detroit Combination or the Zerilli crime family. Milazzo also had a close working relationship with the other leading Detroit Mafia factions, including the Downriver Gang led by brothers Thomas Yanni and Peter Licavoli, and their cousins, the brothers Joseph, Joe Misery, and Leo Lips Moseri, one of the more formidable Mafia factions within Detroit, whose members would become the members of the Detroit Partnership's highest levels. There was the West Side Mob, which was the remnants of Sam Catalanot's faction, Wyandotte area boss, Joseph, Joe the Beer Baron Taco, and the LaMayor Gang led by Chester, Big Chet LaMayor of the Hamtramck area. Murder: the Italian underworld within Detroit had experienced its own bloody power struggles in the mid to late 1910s, and with the death of top Detroit Mafia boss, Sam Catalanot in early 1930, the Detroit Mafia was once again experiencing unrest, rivalry, and conflict. The truce and alliance that Catalanot had created and Milazzo had assisted with for the last few years was now coming unhinged, and one of the most volatile conflicts that had already seen some violence was between the East Side and West Side mobs. West Side Mob leader Chet LaMayor had sent word to East Side Mob leader Angelo Melli that he wanted to sit down to discuss Mafia affairs and possibly end the feud, but Melli was no fool and he knew that it was not safe to meet with the treacherous LaMayor. Melli figured that because Gaspar Milazzo was such a highly respected figure within the Detroit Mafia and known for his mediation skills, he could send Milazzo in his place, and LaMayor would not take it as an insult, as he would understand how Milazzo would be seen as the only man who could mediate this dispute. So Melli asked Milazzo to go to the meeting in his place, and Milazzo accepted. What was not known to Milazzo and Melli was that powerful New York Mafia boss Joe Masria had begun to support Chet LaMayor in his bid to take over the Detroit Mafia, which was something that would not please Milazzo, who was a close associate of Angelo Melli and his two right-hand men, Joe Zerilli and Bill Taco. It's not known for certain whether or not Milazzo knew about Masria's support of LaMayor, Milazzo accepted Melli's proposal to have him attend the sit-down meeting with LaMayor, as Melli believed that LaMayor wouldn't dare kill a mafia boss with Milazzo's respect and support, knowing it was instantly start a war. The meeting was set for the Vernor Highway Fish Market in Detroit, and on May 31, 1930, Gaspar, the peacemaker, Milazzo, and his right-hand man and driver, Sam Sosa Perino, attended the meeting in place of Angelo Melli and his associates. Milazzo and Perino were seated, and while awaiting LaMayor or his representatives, they began their lunch. Without comment, two gunmen leaped out and unleashed a barrage of shotgun blasts that hit Milazzo in the head and killed him instantly. Perino was hit in the chest, abdomen and arm and soon died. Gaspar Milazzo died at the age of 43. He left behind his wife, Rosaria, and 4 children. Aftermath: the reactions to the murder of Gaspar Milazzo was one of shock and outrage. The men who were closely aligned with Milazzo, such as Melli, Taco and Zerilli, called for vengeance and were determined to eliminate LaMayor and his associates for such a disgraceful attack on a man who had been a friend to all who knew him. Even LaMayor, whose safety in other mafia territories outside of Detroit was assured by Gaspar Milazzo with one phone call on many occasions. Some organized crime historians and writers believe that Milazzo had become the most senior Detroit mafiosi upon Catalano's death, but with Milazzo being murdered only 3 months after, there was no time for Milazzo to assume power as he was allegedly supposed to do, or if he could have. Some speculate that Chet LaMayor became the top boss in Detroit, but upon Milazzo's death his closest associates and supporters unleashed a wave of violence upon the LaMayor faction and decimated it within a year with over 14 murders. LaMayor himself would be betrayed and murdered by his own men less than a year later. While some organized crime historians and crime scholars speculate that Milazzo's murder started the bloody Castellamarese War in New York City between Joe, the boss, Masria, and Milazzo's associate, Salvatore Maranzano. Others dispute this based on the fact that close Maranzano associate and ally Gaetano Tommy Reino was murdered in New York on Masria's orders 3 months prior to Milazzo's killing, but it is widely believed or considered to be the first volley within the nationwide mafia war that lasted from 1930 to 1931, being that Milazzo and Perino were the first Castellamarese casualties of the war, and that it was this huge insult against the Castellamarese that cemented their resolve and motivated them to go to war against Joe the Boss. In 1999, Milazzo was portrayed by Ralph Santostefano in the television movie Bonanno, A Godfather's Story. Further reading: Bonanno, Joseph, A Man of Honor, the autobiography of Joseph Bonanno. New York, St. Martin's Press, 2003. ISBN 0-312-97923-1. Capisi, Jerry. The Complete Idiot's Guide to the Mafia. Indianapolis, Alpha Books, 2002. ISBN 0-02-8642225-2. External links: Detroit Fish Market Murders Spark Mafia War, article by Thomas Hunt at the Writers of Wrongs.